Heidi Hollis with us here as we talk about the Hatman evil stories. Heidi, I'm amazed that they haven't gotten to you yet, these entities.
Thanks a lot, George, for that vote of confidence. I wanted to give you my condolences about your sister.
Thank you.
I feel the same way when it comes to cell phones, honestly. I just had to share that. That's horrific. When it comes to these negative things, I used to really, truly be pretty much victimized all the time by these things, and I grew tired of it. And I was glad to say that, I had to lose my fear in order to confront these things when they confronted me. Not to challenge them like I could do it all on my own. I had to keep my faith and my prayers going to be able to do what I do, but I encourage everybody that this is all something very possible, and I also encourage everybody to go on to Facebook and type in Shadow People and Hatman Experiencers Group. That's my group on there, and also paranormalpledge.com, trying to get people to start speaking about these things and sharing their experiences. And we're helping each other to, build up a brick wall against these negative things, because we don't have to allow this stuff to go on. And I don't care if it's negative alien beings, ghosts, possessions, shadow people, Hatman, anything and everything. And it's possible. And I'm trying to encourage that, and with Paranormal Pledge, to try to encourage people to start sharing with the next person, to let people know that this is not something that is so rare that's happening, anything that's out of the ordinary, but the paranormal is quite normal. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me, HeidiHollis.com, also to be able to reach out and share your experiences. And I do my best to respond to every email that's sent to me and try to give some level-headed advice about it. I'm not a know-it-all. I'm not a psychic, just someone that's been through a lot of crap as far as the darkness is concerned, and also experienced the light. I have a book called Jesus is No Joke. I was a skeptic of Jesus encounters, and lo and behold, I had some myself and got healed of something that is miraculous that my doctors have a hard time believing. But, the good side is out there, and it is winning, and
I hope so. You better be able to embrace it, too. Let's take some calls here for you. Buck is in West Virginia. Hey, Buck, go ahead.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, George.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask your guest, this happened to my wife a couple of years ago. She was, first of all, she said to me, Buck, you're not going to believe this, but I was sitting on the bed folding clothes, and out of the corner of my eye, I caught what appeared to be an old woman. She said I couldn't make it out. It looked almost like a shadow. She'd never heard of shadow people. Anyway, she said this woman had like a babushka on, and she was menacing looking. And since then, she's come to find that the woman has a name. She saw a picture of the same thing on the internet, and her name was Strega Nora. Have you ever heard that? She said it looked like she had a hood on or a babushka, and that actually means Grandma Witch. Have you ever heard of anything?
Sounds like the old hag, Heidi.
It really does. It sounds very much like her. Yeah. Honestly, that's a phenomenon that's been going on for some time, where people are reporting seeing this grotesque little woman that it feels like she's taken the life out of people. I had one recently write me telling me about that this is horrible. The lady woke up to this thing, and this little nasty woman that was mimicking and mocking her. She was saying, "No, please go away, please go away." And the thing said, "Please go away, please go away." I mean, it's a horrific thing. And then this thing leaned over her and started inhaling her breath, like taking her breath away. So yeah, this is an entity that's been harassing and haunting people for quite some time.
Okay, let's go next to John in St. Louis, first-time caller. Hey, John, go ahead.
Hey, thanks, George, for taking my call.
Sure thing.
Yeah, I've never, until your show, which I've listened to for quite a while, but I've never heard of this Hatman or people before. But whenever I was a kid, I was about 10, and I lived in Arkansas. I was at a friend's house, and they had recently done a bunch of clearings in the back, and I was in what was left of a plum orchard. And we had made me and my friend had made like a little cave back there. And I looked at the ground, and the sun was at my back, and right at my feet, in front of me, about maybe 2 or 3 feet, I saw the silhouette, a shadow, if you will, of a man with a cowboy hat on, and I saw the shoulders and the cowboy hat. And I turned around, and there was no one there. When I turned back around, it was gone. And I never really thought anything of it. Thought maybe I was just seeing stuff or whatever. But after listening to y'all's show, I don't know. And then so I told my friend about it, and because he wasn't there at the time, and he said, "Oh yeah, our house is haunted." And later, I guess a couple weeks later, I was there, and I was playing video games at night. Obviously, I don't know why it's always at night that these things happen, but was that one time, that was during the day. But anyways, I was playing video games on the couch, and in the kitchen behind me, I heard footsteps, like boots, walking across the kitchen. It was the strangest thing. I was the only one there. He was in his room. His mom was asleep. So, yeah, there's really something to it. But anyways, thanks for taking my call. I love your show.
Thank you, John.
Night. So, I'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Stay cool out there in St. Louis.
Yeah,
it's been very hot.
It's a common pattern with the Hat Man and walking heavily through people's homes. It sounds like boots creeping through people's homes for some reason. So he does like to let his presence be known. And, it's interesting to me, how a lot of people are like, oh, my gosh, like he's brand new to realizing others have experienced him. And, for people who don't know, I actually named the Hat Man Shadow People as well in my books. And it's so amazing to me how still, after so many years, I first wrote the book in 97, and to hear people, still realizing, like, wow, I'm not alone. This is something that's been happening to others. So, welcome to the horrible club of people who have experienced such an evil entity. But it's going on worldwide. Same look, same feel.
Give us one of your stories of old hags. What do you have in your little repertoire of stories?
Well, this is interesting because this one is fascinating to me when it comes to the old hag, because this is the one that I told you in regards to the Hat Man and the old hag. So this gentleman that wrote me not too long ago had the Hat Man approach him, and while he was laying in bed, it's always in bed when your guard is down, and he felt paralyzed. And the Hat Man took his long claw of a hand, for some reason it looked claw-like to this gentleman, and pointed at the doorway. And there appeared this little grandma-looking entity that looked angry at the guy and came up to him and went to touch his forehead and knocked him out.
Knocked him out?
Knocked him out, yeah. So it just honestly, like, I don't know what her whole purpose is and what her exact connection is to the Hat Man, but she has been seen with him on a handful of times. And this is something newer that's been coming to me that is just kind of blowing my mind, like, wow, the old hag has been busy.
Has the old hag ever killed anybody?
When it comes to these dark things, it's like, I think
who would know?
What's that?
Who would know?
Yeah, exactly. The dark stuff is so out to get people, I really wouldn't be surprised. And the people that seem like fortunate, like when they feel that they're being pulled out of their bodies and fighting for their souls to get returned back to their bodies, they feel as if they didn't find a way back, that this would have been the end for them. So I am not surprised if that's happened.
Let's go to Kevin, truck driving in Iowa. Thanks for truck driving, first of all, Kevin, and go ahead.
Hey, George. Yeah, I've had an experience. It's probably been about 10 years. I've only told this to probably maybe 3 people. I was asleep one night, and my wife was beside me. I felt like there was something in the room, but I noticed I couldn't move at all. I was just totally frozen. And then I felt like something was in the room with me, and other than my wife. And all I could move was my eyes. And
jeez.
I felt like something was standing next to the bed, and I just kept telling myself that, it's a night terror, it's a night terror. And then I felt like something had put its knee on the bed, and I could feel the bed go down. And all I wanted to do was wake my wife up because I mean, I'm a veteran and I don't share easily, but this terrified me. I felt helpless. And I could feel it like right in my ear, and it whispered to me that it was going to take my wife, and there was nothing I could do about it. And I was like just screaming inside, but nothing would come out. And I don't know, it just kind of went away and went to the frame of the door going into our bathroom, and a bright light appeared, and I could see an outline. Didn't have a hat on, but just a dark figure. Yeah. And then it was gone. And the moment it was gone, I was able to wake up, and I woke up my wife, and I mean, I was in tears. It just total terror.
Yes. What do you think happened to him, Heidi?
You know, that's something that I've heard about as well, that, you know, the Hat Man will come to people, and he's not quite getting the level of terror that he wants to get. So he seems to invoke even more by saying, I'm going to get your child. I'm going to get your wife. I'm going to get this person. And then, you know, it rises up in the person to a point of, like you're saying, tears and feeling absolutely helpless. You know, a lot of people feel like, you know, I could take it, you know, and they have a better defense than, say, the next person, and they want to protect. They're a protector of sorts. And they want to protect their loved ones, and this thing knows this and tries to play upon it, which is a really sad thing. It angers me so much, the tactics that he uses that is really abusive to people, honestly. So
we're with Heidi Hollis, of course, talking about some of her work. Her website is linked up at coasttocoastam.com. It is HeidiHollis.com. Very clever website there, Heidi.
Oh, well, thank you. My favorite color, purple. Had to put it.
Let's go out to Des Moines, Iowa. It's Greg's turn. He's been on hold. Greg, welcome to the program.
Hey, George. Hey, Heidi. How are you guys doing?
Great. Thank you.
Hey, Heidi. I've been wondering about this story for a long time that my grandpa has been telling me. And his eyes are bugging out of his head. You can tell he's really had this experience. And he said he used to wash dishes at a grocery store on the south side of Des Moines, and he'd ride the bus home every night. And he said that this one night that he got off was different, and he said it was quiet. He couldn't hear birds. He couldn't hear crickets. And he said he was walking on the dirt road home, and there used to be a park, a small park, and he said he sensed something from behind him, and he turned to his left a little bit, and he saw, and it was just a perfect outline of a human being. He said it was just a shadow, just dark, pitch black, and he said it literally touched him. He could feel it physically touch his shoulder, and he said he was so scared that all he remembered after that was dust behind him, looking up at the moon, running home, and he slammed the door open when he got home, and his mom, my great-grandma, didn't know what was going on. But I don't know if you knew, can it change the environment? Does it have the power to do that? Can it make it silent?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's actually another common pattern. People say, you know, suddenly I don't hear the crickets. The birds aren't outside, you know, and they know that a presence is near that's just not right. So, yeah, he does, well, it's not just him, it's shadow people, too, that kind of instill that in the environment, like, why is it so quiet? Things aren't humming. There's not that buzz in the air of life. Like, it's draining life out of the air. So, yeah, I mean, I've heard of people being so absolutely terrified by the presence of any of these negative things where it's almost like they black out and they bolt and they run. And it's a, you know, fight or flight type of reaction, which I don't blame people. So, I mean, it could save your life. I think getting around people definitely helps to repel these types of negativity.
Heidi, in eastern France, hundreds of graves were vandalized. They were desecrated. It was a Jewish cemetery. I don't know why people are so sick, but they smashed tombstones and everything else. When you do something like that, when you disrupt the dead, will they get even with you?
Well, you know, some of us might hope so, but I don't know always if that's the case. I mean, I think there'd be a lot of people having a lot of issues because I think a lot of teenagers tend to hang out in those places for some reason. But, you know, when it comes to graveyards, it just seems that Hat Man and shadow people do like to hang out in those areas. So they love negative acts, they love negativity, and they may be the things that would follow you home, to be honest. And I find this to be the case when it comes to, children, so-called children haunting houses. Children aren't haunting houses. 9 times out of 10, you'll find that that's something demonic, and it's usually shadow people related, hat man related.
Is it a trick?
It always seems to come up.
Do they trick you?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, they do. I mean, what child do you know would be allowed to roam the earth aimlessly? What kind of God would do that?
Chucky.
Oh, Chucky. There you go.
It would be him.
My goodness. It almost seems that way, but it's interesting to me how, the child, it's just a kid ghost, so the person is more welcoming and lets their guard down, and lo and behold, the thing starts scratching them, and it's the 3 scratches, that, resemble the Trinity. It mocks the Trinity, and it's something that I always see this build-up, and people are like, oh, I thought it was something innocent, and it turned out not to be, and I'm like, it's not welcome, it shouldn't be there. Don't welcome it. Don't allow it to stay, because it will build up and it will, betray your trust at some point. I just don't believe in there being Casper the Friendly Ghost wandering around.
No, I mean, you take the posture that there's a lot of evil out there, Heidi, don't you? As good as you are, and I know you. As a matter of fact, people are still watching your Beyond Belief TV show you did with me months ago.
All right.
They love that. And
cool.
People, you can watch Heidi, beyondbelief.com. We did a program months ago, and she just knocked the socks off everybody. But you are generally, you don't like to surround yourself with evil at all.
No.
Some people who are experts like you are, they enjoy dabbling on the evil side. Why do they do that?
I do not understand that. I just don't get it. There's enough evil in the world. Why do you have to seek it out? And, the ghost hunting, I don't do that personally either. I do try to help people help themselves in those situations, but I don't go out there and say, well, let me try to make this ghost angry and see if I could get a rise out of him and get him to talk to me.
Not smart.
Yeah, it really isn't. It's inviting them. I mean, if you want to have a peaceful life, which I do, I do not get bothered by these negative things. When I was writing the Hat Man book, the Hat Man kind of tried to show himself a few times, but you know what? I expected him to get upset, and I'm glad, because it let me know that I'm on the right track and trying to, rile some things up out there. So, it's been an interesting life, I could tell you that. I consider myself to be more of a Christian paranormal author, and I have all these books, I have the Picture Prayers, Jesus No Joke, and the other F-word books, on faith and positive stuff. But the Shadow People, the Secret War book, the Hat Man book, this is what people want to hear about.
We're going to come back with you, Heidi, and take some final phone calls before I go into open lines on Coast to Coast AM. Next hour, Blue Moon Open Lines. Make sure you're part of that program. Coast to Coast Insiders, thank you for all you're doing. We're going to do a test of the studio cam on Monday. Let's hope it works. And then in the not-too-distant future, hopefully in the week, we'll get it turned on for our pregame show, basically, just for you. So take advantage of it. Would you like to be an insider? So many people are. I mean, a lot of people. Simply go to our website, coasttocoastam.com, and sign up. It's 15 cents a day. And welcome back to Coast to Coast with Heidi Hollis. Heidi, I've got a great idea for your next book, Conversations with the Hat Man.
Ooh, that sounds like a good one.
Have them talk to you. You interview them for the book.
Oh, me? No, thanks, no.
Come on.
No, you first, George.
Oh, no. Let's go to the phones. Dot's with us in Salt Lake City. Hello, Dot. Thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
I'm glad you had that break, because I was laughing, and this isn't really a funny matter, but I wanted to tell you first about, as I open, with the old hack.
Okay.
I have a beautiful blonde daughter that wanted to serve on a mission, and I said, no, I don't want my girls. I'm the type that followed them around and always take care of them and don't let them call boys and nothing. And I don't want her anywhere in a foreign country. So her father said, okay, if she got a call maybe to go to Australia, would let her go or something. And she's one of these that are like an angel, just pure. So she's ditzy, though.
Yeah.
Blondes have a tendency to be that one. I'm thinking, that far away from me, and how many times have I had to come for her and help her over here? She goes to Australia, and she has some sister missionaries, and they have been working harder than hard and had some success preaching the gospel. And they were on bicycles at that time, and they had a flat over in Australia, Melbourne. And they had been having suspicious feelings about things, just creepy things, that they were just the creepy feelings you get. So at night, that night when she went to bed, she goes, Mommy, she goes, I don't know if I was just so tired from riding that bike or if I was just paralyzed, but out of the corner of my eye, just as we were going to sleep, she said, there's this woman with this, like a witch with this silver hair, and she was screaming and she was furious, and she ran around, and then I could feel something on my back. And she said, I didn't feel any appendages, but I couldn't move, and I couldn't breathe. And then she said, I literally felt like my feet were going through the mattress, that she was pushing down so hard. And so she said, I managed to remember to just call out for the Lord to try to please help me, because I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And she did that, and it left. So on that note, I want to tell you that you do not ever want to mess with these things. You don't want to call them for any reason whatsoever, because the next person that I'm going to tell you about, he literally died. He
what happened?
Had these entities, and they're like poltergeists, and they mess with your house and you and almost like the Bell Witch, and they just deep demonic things. So when I met them, they had moved, and I said, well, why did you move? And she says, well, I just have to tell you, because they knew, I think they were Jehovah's Witnesses, and they knew I would understand. So he had to move several times trying to get away from them, and you can't. They know where you are, and they would follow them. And he seemed to be more disturbed than she was about it, and it seemed like they were constantly berating and picking on him. And I went to the spa with my daughter, the same blonde-haired little girl, before she grew up. And when I was at the spa, this lady that I knew, that was his wife, and he was a good-looking man. She was a beautiful woman. They had everything going for them. She was crying, and she said her husband had died, and people had asked her, and she broke down and was crying and go, oh, my gosh, what happened? She goes, well, remember what I told you? She said, for years this has been going on, and he just couldn't take it anymore. So the other night he got up out of bed, got his shotgun, and she said, I could hear him do this, but I just didn't have the fortitude to stop him anymore. And he went out back of the acreage and just shot himself.
Oh.
That's terrible.
Now, my daughter and I get in the car, we're going home, and it's like if you make a long L and you make that turn. Well, I'm trying to tell her what happened to the lady, because she's going, Mommy, what happened to her? What's wrong? So I'm trying to explain it as, she must have been 12. And as soon as we made the turn and got near his house, which I didn't even notice because I was so busy trying to calm her down and explain it to her, all of a sudden this fog came right out in front of my car as I drove by his house, and I couldn't see beyond my car, and it's a 2-lane road. If I miss my half of the road, somebody coming the other way, that's a head-on, for sure. So I slowed down, and my daughter, she's very, has feelings about things. She goes, Mommy, don't stop. And I go, you can feel that? She goes, yeah, I feel it. Don't stop. I says, I won't. And I thought, but how do I drive through this? So after we kept going, and it was this cold, thick, whitest fog that I have ever seen, the whitest white, and I am a clean freak. There isn't a Clorox bottle that could get anything any whiter. So we passed through it, and as we're driving home, we just sat there. We could hardly talk. We were so upset and scared because we didn't know what happened if we would stop. So when we look, there's not a cloud in the sky for over 50 miles, and we go up our hillside where our home was, get out of the car, and we're looking and searching, and you could see for almost 50 miles. all the way through the valley, and there was not a cloud in the sky. Now, the reason I know that this is true and things can happen like this, my husband's sister said she was in her bedroom one night, had double doors, and all of a sudden this whitest fog, she said, rolled up under the doors, came over by her bed and started billowing and rising up higher and higher and higher. And she said she had to command it to leave her 5 times. In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave.
I've heard that before, Heidi, this kind of misty fog that blows in.
Yes, I've seen it myself.
What is it?
You know, it seems to be a manifestation of these negative things, that they could take that form as well, and sometimes they will absolutely transform into whatever it is that they are, a hat man, shadow people. I saw one even transform into a gray's face, an alien's face. So I don't know. It's strange, but it just seems to be like a looser form of themselves. But, you know, it's interesting in talking about the old hag, talking about hat man, shadow people, even aliens, negative alien beings that abduct, the sleep paralysis. They all seem to work under the same guise of paralyzing people in their sleep, taking advantage. And, you know, there's an element that doesn't often get spoken of, shadow people, hat man. Sometimes there's a sexual abuse element, and aliens do the same. So, you know, I find more things that are connected between all of them than not. And, again, I welcome anybody who's experiencing night terrors to write me at dustoutlander@gmail.com to participate in a new television show project to help bring awareness to this, and also to bring help to those that are suffering profusely with these things. So it's something that I'm really passionate about, and I really hope to help as many people as I can. And I always welcome people to write me about what it is that they're experiencing, about anything out of the ordinary, even the good stuff, angel encounters, Jesus encounters, all of that. And, you know, just to have somebody to vent to and to bounce questions off from, and I always air it on my radio show too, and answer people. So, you know, it's something I would do it in my sleep if I could, George. I really enjoy helping people on these topics.
Let's go to Jacob now in Louisville, Kentucky. Jacob, good morning.
Hello.
Hi, Jacob.
I believe it's gonna. I don't know how to explain this to people because it's kind of weird for them, I guess, but in my past life, I was a demon, and yeah, it's weird. I know.
How do you know that,
and
Jacob? How do you know that?
I just remember it. You know, just
okay.
I don't. When the shadow people you're talking about, they are the spirits that go to hell for a punishment. The punishment for them that was chosen by Satan is to do this to the people. They don't like to do it, but they're forced to do it. Some of them might enjoy doing it, but the Hat Man is, what I remember, is actually like the Jesus of Satan, like the Antichrist, I guess you could say, because he's kind of like the son, but not really. I've never heard of the white fog before, though. That's interesting.
Yeah.
The fact that he would know he was a demon in another life, or another existence, let me say it like that, that's kind of scary, Heidi.
It is. And you know what's fascinating to me, though? I have met many people who are having these very, very vivid dreams or out-of-body experiences, showing up in a hell-like place, being tortured, participating in torturing others, and also the opposite, people who recall a heaven-like place and, you know, helping people, assisting people. You know, I'm no angel, George, but I have a lot of memories in regards to, like, a heaven-like place, and have received some interesting emails over the years, people saying, I don't know who you are, but I saw you in my dream, and you helped me with something, and they'll, like, send me their picture, and they're like, do I look familiar to you? And but, you know, I'm not the only one. This has happened to other people, and it's like like-minded people are finding each other. And it's a really interesting phenomenon, and it's ongoing with these hell encounters, these hell experiences and heaven experiences. It's like people are showing up in the places that they're more closely related to.
Let's go to our Skype caller in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Jesse's turn on Coast to Coast. Hi, Jesse.
Hi, George.
Good to have you with us. Go ahead, Jesse.
Thank you. I just wanted to share my Hat Man experience.
Sure.
So I've heard your guest, I believe, on your show a few years ago. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of Hat Man, and it really freaked me out because I had this exact same experience she was describing practically like about a decade ago.
Yeah.
And I live in an area called Black Forest, so I'm on like 5 acres out in the woods. And I had moved here with my parents and my brother in my 20s. And I was in a pretty dark place in my life at that time. I'd, kind of lost all my friends that we'd moved from California, and my brother had been very depressed, and it was winter, and it was tough here adjusting, and so I was kind of in a bad spot, and kind of depressed. And I remember waking up at like 3:15 in the morning, sort of that hazy in between dream state, and somebody was talking to me. And the more and more I became cognizant of what was happening, it was all these kind words, reassuring, but it was very creepy tone, otherworldly tone, and I got this very distinct uneasy feeling. And as I became more and more aware of what was happening, I kind of became in a sleep paralysis state where my eyes were open, but I couldn't move. And at that time, I didn't see the Hat Man. I just got the impression he was around, either behind me, on the other side of the bed, or something. And as this went on, I questioned it. It was sort of like like a telepathic type communication on my part, I guess. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, still listening. We're enthralled with what you're saying, Jesse.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was I got the feeling that it wanted me to accept it and let it tell me all these nice things so that it could sort of take over. And somehow I sort of allowed it to continue spewing, but I didn't trust it at all, and I didn't like even communicate that. I kept it like a deeper place in my mind.
Sure.
And I sort of let myself get lulled back into a more sleep-like state. And just as I was about to totally pass out again, I sort of astroplaned out the door, and I'm in this side room, and there's this like sliding glass door in the next room over. And I astroplaned out the door and looked over to the right at the window next to my bed. And I saw a figure in a hat, and it was a low brim, and it was very short, and it was stooped on the rock, like a little rock wall next to the window. And it looked up, and it saw me, and it was like a sort of typical gray alien type body.
Huh.
And I couldn't see the whole head, but it had, when it saw me, it sneered at me with this horrible jowl full of jagged teeth, and I saw the red eyes, and it freaked me out completely. And I woke up actually back in my bed instantly, and I was looking right out that window from my sleep paralysis state, only I could see it for a second, just the silhouette, and poof into that kind of gray smoke. And I must have stayed awake for another hour and a half.
I don't blame you. Heidi, your impressions of this? Bad dream, night terrors, something real. What?
I can't just lump things to be like, oh, it's somebody's night terror and it's not anything that anyone could relate to. Everybody's experiencing very similar things. This thing was really, really trying to get at him, and it lets me know personally when something makes such an effort to get someone and convince someone to let them in, he's a prize to be had, and he's not an easy target. So it's got to woo him. and it's got to convince him, let your guard down. Here I am, and
yeah.
I mean,
we won't hurt you.
Yeah, exactly. We won't hurt you. It's like, oh yes, it will, and wow, And I relate the shadow people and the Hat Man being related to the alien phenomenon. Always have, and these things, they exist. They're connected. They're seen together sometimes. And, to see this combination of an alien body with this hat, I mean, how bizarre. I mean, but it honestly, his story is pretty interesting, but there are a lot of people who feel like this thing is trying to convince them to even work for them. I've had several people tell me that.
I'm still baffled, though, Heidi, what it wants. Is it after our souls? What the heck does it want?
It wants the power, and it does want the souls. It wants everything. It's like the early explorers that wanted the land. They want everything. They want the power. They want to say that they control everything. And it seems like such a silly thing, but gosh, mankind really makes an effort to do all these same things, too.
Sure does. Heidi, give out your websites and information for people who might want to be in your film.
Yes, new TV series I'm working on the topics of night terrors, people that are experiencing nightmares, sleep paralysis, anything and everything as far as seeing odd things when they wake up. So write me at dusoutlander@gmail.com. Contact me at my website, HeidiHollis.com, and also to check out my many books, The Hat Man, The Secret War, Jesus is No Joke, Fickle Finders, a graphic novel that I did, and Picture Prayers, just as otherfword.com for a couple of other books that I'm doing as far as graphic novels. I'm trying to do everything I can to try to wake people up and help them realize that, what's going on. And, people need to reach for the light, whatever it is that you feel is positive in your faith, to go that route, because the dark side is really betting on us that we're not going to figure them out. But we've got to come together on this stuff. And
bam, Hat Man, that just jumped right out at me. That's a grabber. You must have known it right off the bat, right?
Well, I wanted to keep it direct.
The book is written. It's fun. It's obviously you take these topics seriously, but it's not so over the top serious that it fails to be fun. And you even note that early in the book. You said something to the effect of, for some people that spells I don't take it seriously as needed, but you do. Yeah, definitely.
I always say to people, it's like, if I want to clear a room, I know how to do that by just sharing a few of the thousands of emails and stories that I've received and heard over the years. But if I want to, have somebody be more curious and ask questions and be inquisitive, I treat it like any other topic, as humanly flawed as possible, with a touch of humor, and just dealing with it like humans do deal with these topics. And we sure do learn a whole heck of a lot more that way than trying to shove a flashlight under one's chin to scare people.
Well, as we learn in this book, this is not just an assignment or something for you. You've lived it. You've had a lifetime of weird experiences that sort of led you on the path. Let's start with some of your experiences as a youngster, the earliest memories of what you'd call a paranormal experience, because it leads directly to where you are now, right?
Oh, goodness. Yeah. Wow. The very, very, very first thing that I recollected came back to me as a teenager, and it related to a very peculiar topic. I had to be about 6 years old, and my younger sister, she was probably about 4 years old, and my mother had sent us to go upstairs to get my brother for dinner. And, being, pretty close in age, we were just kind of competing against each other, running up the stairs and trying to get there. And to my brother's room, when out of his bedroom came a robotic toy clown. And it was kind of cool. It was like, oh, cool. We didn't have remote control back then. I'm like, oh, it took a couple of steps to go play with this thing when I don't even know how to describe, but an absolute feeling of dread and horror came over us, and we turned to run from this thing. And it's not like it felt like we were moving in slow motion. We were moving in slow motion, and somehow my little sister got past me, started going down the stairs before I did, and I watched her lose consciousness as she tumbled down the stairs, and I lost consciousness at the top of the stairs, and it was just the strangest thing. I mean, my mother picked up my sister at the bottom of the stairs, didn't say anything, didn't ask us any questions. I woke up at the top of the stairs, I don't know how much time later, and it was as if it just never happened. We didn't speak of it until 10 years later. Plop, here's the memory again. I'm 16. I looked to my sister, and I'm like, whoa, do you remember that robotic toy clown that came after us when we were kids? And she just looked up at me with such horror in her eyes, like, I thought that was a nightmare. I'm like, no. I'm like, there's no way that we shared that same dream. I speak over there, and you draw what you saw, and I'll draw what I saw. And we both drew the same thing, and the peculiar thing with this robotic toy clown thing, it was not touching the ground. This is actually a story. I don't think I put this one in the Hat Man book.
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, not this one. I just wanted to creep you out, George. How about that?
You have a line early in the book. You say, I've been living in the nest of the paranormal world for nearly as long as I can recall. And then you explain that, from what you can tell, from all the descriptions, that you lived in what we would call a haunted house.
Yes.
And you knew that early on. I mean, 7 or so you were?
Yes, I was 7. This was a more direct memory that I had. This was just lovely. And my mother had passed away early in the year, in about April. And by Christmas time, my father had moved in my future stepmother. And we had already, this was Christmas morning, by the way, so we had already opened up all of our presents. We're sitting there playing with it, me and my siblings, and myself, my 2 sisters, and my future stepbrother. And my stepmother had this awesome organ that she had moved into the house. And so we're sitting there playing with our toys, and my parents, my stepmother, my dad, were going to go wish others Merry Christmas, and they would be back. So we're just like, okay, you know, whatever, we're playing with our toys, we're having a good old time. When all of a sudden, the organ started playing by itself. And, you know, we're just like, oh, my gosh, that is the coolest thing. Me and my sisters, we get up, and we look at this organ just pounding away, and we go to my stepbrother, we're like, that is so cool. How does that do that? And he is just like, you know, pale and just his jaws open. He's like, it doesn't do that. It was so funny. It was just like a moment out of a movie. And we're just like, it just had enough time to gasp and scream and run into the nearest room that had a lock on it, which was the bathroom, of course. So we all piled in there. And this organ, I mean, it wasn't like just, you know, playing a little here and there. It was pounding like, It was just crazy. And it was loud. And I had kind of a bully of a sister who was just, she was such a joy at times. And so we're all standing in the bathroom. This organ is going crazy, not too far outside of the bathroom door, when my sister goes, oh, it's too crowded in here. Somebody's got to get out. And so I'm pushed out. I'm 7 years old. I was 8 years old at the time. And I'm like, no way, you know, I'm crying. And I just like, this really just started my whole paranormal trek, I guess.
There's a long list of stuff that happened in this house, right? I mean, they convinced everyone in your family. Like what? Like, give me the laundry list.
You know, well, that night, I mean, the organ started playing. My sister's new toy started playing. And I mean, they had no batteries. We had poundings. We had scratching in the walls. There was one occasion when my stepbrother and my sister, they were hearing the poundings, and it was just coming. It just seemed to be coming from underneath the stairs. It seemed to be coming from the walls, and they're the only 2 home. And they locked themselves in the bathroom, and my stepbrother got sick of it and just, you know, stepped out of the bathroom at some point and said, you know, I'm not afraid of you, you know, come and take me on type of thing, when something black with red eyes went into his face and scratched his face up, you know. So my dad was convinced, you know, must be a bat loose in the house, you know. There's no bat in the house. I think perhaps that may have been the first face of shadow beings in my life. I had not seen them at that time, but it's a strange thing. A lot of people say, oh, well, your mother must have been in a witchcraft or something like that. That's why, after she passed away, the house became haunted. And I'm like, what mother do you know would taunt and haunt their children?
Did stuff happen before she died in the house?
The haunting did not. The clown incident turned out to be alien related, believe it or not.
We'll come back to that. But I mean, so there was weird stuff that happened in the house before your mother died?
No, there was not.
Did your dad see this stuff? Any of these events that you described?
Oh, he admitted many years later. We were so upset with him. We're like, how could you leave us in that horror, making us feel like we were alone and we're experiencing this stuff on our own? And he's like, are you kidding me? He's like, if I let you guys know how scared I was, there's no way you kids would have stayed in the house. He thought it was hilarious. We were just like, oh, my God, Dad,
No, was your dad frightened by it at some point? Did he admit that later? Yes?
Oh, yeah, he was. He absolutely was terrorized and terrified. He actually had the worst experiences, one being one time when he was laying in his bed, and his bedroom door opened by itself. And he said he looked to see, kind of leaned forward to see who was coming in the door, thought it was one of us. And his sheets on his bed rose up, and something very cold, he said, kind of draped itself right next to him, and he was absolutely paralyzed. Not from being scared, but he was unable to move. And he thinks he passed out from the horror of it all, because next thing he knew, he's waking up and, it was all gone. So I was like, wow, Dad, that's crazy. We had... Yeah.
What did you say to him years later? And, I can imagine at the time he was trying to calm everybody down, so he didn't give it much credence. But years later, he admits to it.
Well, my dad is he's very much a jokester, really laid back type of guy. And so when he finally admitted to it, he admitted, after we're grown up. He did not admit any other time prior to that. And also brought forward a photograph that had a ghost in it that did look like my mother on Christmas Day when we started with the haunting. But again, I don't give credit for this haunting as being something that my mother created. I truly, in my heart, believe that this is something that she was probably able to keep away. I mean, a mother's love. Hello, I don't think there's anything more fierce and powerful in the world.
Yeah.
So I think that that is what helped keep this thing away. But when she left, it just opened up the gates, because it's been terrorizing me ever since.
Tell us the story of the attack of the killer spoons that happened in that house, because it was entertaining and informative.
Oh my goodness, yeah, this was just lovely. So because the house was so terrifying for me and my siblings, we kind of made a pact among ourselves that we wouldn't allow each other to be in the house alone. So when I would come home from school, my older sister would sit on the porch until I would get home, and then we would go into the house together. So this one day I came home, and she wasn't on the porch. So I'm thinking, oh, gee, really, what a brave soul to go into the house. She must have really had to use the bathroom or something. I had no idea. So I came into the door. I'm calling out her name. I'm taking off my book bag, and I'm looking around for her, and I hear something in the kitchen, and just like a clanging sound. I'm like, oh, maybe she got hungry or something, and I'm still calling her name, and I'm walking to the kitchen doorway, and the sounds of this clanging, of course, got louder as I came closer and closer to the kitchen, and I mean, the horror of what I saw, it was only the clanging of silverware that I was hearing with no outright source. The drawer that held, I just get goosebumps saying this one. The drawer that kept the silverware was kind of vibrating, and I saw it sliding open, and I watched the silverware start to rise up. And I mean, the best I could do right behind me was the bathroom door, the safety room, to go into to lock the door. And I spun around and I went to the bathroom door, and it was locked. I didn't know what was, who was in there, why it was locked, no clue. But right in front of me were the staircase to the second floor bathroom, and I just bolted up the stairs, ran into the bathroom, and locked the door. And all the while, I heard silverware clanging in the air behind me. And I just, and I got into the bathroom, I locked the door, and I heard the silverware hitting the bathroom door as I was sitting in there. And I mean, I was absolutely petrified. There was no me getting close to hear what was going on because I could hear it just fine. I'm like, no, this is not happening. This is not happening. I think I was all of 9 years old at the time. And I was so I just buried my face in my knees and just sat on the floor and just waiting, like this has just got to stop. And then I heard a noise in the house, and I didn't know, what the heck, I wasn't gonna move from the spot that I was in, and I thought I was hearing things, and it was my dad calling my name, and I just couldn't respond. And he comes up to the door and he's like, Heidi, are you in there? And I'm like, Dad, yeah, it's me, and he's like, I opened up the door, I'm like so hesitant, and he's like, why didn't you respond? And I was trying to tell him the silverware and everything that happened, and as I'm trying to explain to him, there was evidence behind him. There was a spoon on the floor behind him, and I'm like, look, there it is, and he's just like, really?
I think you wrote in the book you weren't quite sure if it was really Dad that was outside the bathroom door or somebody trying to pretend something sounding like Dad to trick you into opening up.
Yeah, honestly, it's you question yourself. I mean, being a kid, it's like, my gosh, what? You just don't know what's real anymore. You really don't.
Well, kids have imaginations. I can remember some shreds of memory back that far where you're thinking about some monster in the closet or the monster under the bed. You see things that may or may not be there, and kids do imagine a much more dangerous world than exists. You're saying that the things that were happening to your family are far outside the bounds of something like that.
Oh gosh, yeah. It was absolutely gut-wrenching and terrorizing and terrifying. What we experienced there, and it's hard to counsel oneself when you're a kid. You feel unbelieved by your parents, and so it was nice that I had my siblings to talk to in regard to what we're experiencing, how we were feeling, and what was going on. We just didn't feel safe. We really didn't feel safe, and back then too, it was funny. Because a movie just wasn't a movie unless it was a haunted movie, a horror movie or something. It was kind of therapeutic for us that even if it wasn't real, that others knew of the possibilities of what some of us go through. So, it was so bizarre for us. And for the longest time, a movie just had to be a horror movie for me to feel at ease. Isn't that strange?
Well, yeah. Since then, you've been an investigator of these kinds of phenomena, and you've undoubtedly read articles about the connection between kids and what you'd call poltergeist-type activity, speculation that maybe somehow it's a psychic, something psychic that kids in that age range generate themselves. What do you think about that?
Oh, gosh, yeah, I've heard that, and I've had people suggest that potentially that's what I was up against. I was up against myself. I'm like, yeah, but I wasn't always around so when these things happen. So I don't think that was something that I was experiencing at the time. I do believe that some people have the ability to do odd things that not necessarily are so directly understood. I can say that I'm what some people might call an electric person. I have zapped many computers. I have zapped typewriters, word processors, even back in the day. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's frustrating. Street lamps, you name it. But thank God it's gotten better over the years, where it hasn't been like that. So, and my dad being a computer tech came in handy. Let me tell you.
Well, I can relate to that electrical thing, and I'll share some stories with you at some point, not on the air, about that. Awesome. You started having dreams, dreams in which your mom or a form of your mom played a particular role, and then other members of the family started having the same dreams. When we come back, we're going to jump into those stories because they sort of lead to shadow people and eventually to Hat Man. Much more to come here with Heidi Hollis on Coast to Coast AM. Hey, if you're going to host a show about the Hat Man, you got to play this song. It's called Safety Dance, and of course the group, Men Without Hats. We'll consider it kind of a talisman to protect us all as we delve into the story of the Hat Man. When we come back, shadow people, how Heidi Hollis ended up investigating them, the experiences she had. Much more to come here on Coast to Coast. Heidi, this is sort of the point where it kind of gets serious for you and your sisters. You all start having this basically the same kind of dreams in which your mom appears, but it's not really your mom, and it's the vision is pretty frightening. And I can imagine at that age it must have been incredibly frightening. Tell us what was happening in the dreams and what your reaction was when you realized your sisters were having the same dreams.
Oh gosh, absolutely! Just the strangest thing happened. My parents, my stepmother and my father, I did not know this, but one of the reasons why we moved from our old house that was haunted was because they didn't want to deal with the haunting anymore. So they literally built a brand new house, so no one had ever lived in it before. So we moved out to the suburbs, and it was a relief. I mean, it was like a new beginning, and my siblings were like, "Oh gosh, you don't have to deal with this dark menace anymore." And this was I was about 10 years old at the time, and almost immediately I started having the most horrific nightmares, and it was nothing pleasant. I would see my mother, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Mom, it's so nice to see you." I'm going towards her to go hug her, and I pull back only to see this menacing thing with black eyes, always trying to kill me, choke me, chase me. And it was I can't even describe that kind of a feeling. It was evil. It was negative. It was not my mother. It was something masquerading as my mother. And I dealt with this from the age of 10 for probably 20 years, honestly. And it was ongoing. I was about 17 years old when my older sister, she called the house, and she'd already moved out, and she didn't sound good. I'm like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "I'm just not sleeping well." I'm like, "Well, why?" And she's like, "I've just these nightmares. I can't take them anymore." I'm like, "What?" And like, "What kind of nightmares?" And she said, "It's Mom. And she has black eyes." And I'm like, OMG. And probably a week earlier, my younger sister had told me the same thing. And I'm like, do you guys realize we are all dreaming the same dreams? I mean, some of them were verbatim, others were not, but the same theme was consistent. And I don't know why that was happening, what was going on. But the feeling was one that, it wasn't something that we wanted to talk about because, who wants to, share that, I have these dreams of Mom's killing me, So we kept it to ourselves and kind of dealt with it. But I didn't know what to do about it. And I was happy when they dissipated. And I've got a big sense of humor, so I have to have a good time with this stuff. Otherwise, I think I'd go a little nuts.
I got you. Yeah. Tell me this: how old were you when you started seeing these shadow people images? I mean, I'm sure that's not what you called them right off the bat, but eventually were to call them.
I was about 20, maybe 19, 20 years old when I saw the first one following a friend of mine. I personally did not deal with these things outright in my childhood, thank God. This is so peculiar and so strange. It was broad daylight. I was living down in Iowa for a summer, and my friend, I was staying at her house. I was staying on the second floor in an attic that was partially done. And she wanted to go to her uncle's house. We went to go walk over to her uncle's house, and again, broad daylight, walking along this path that had some trees, and I saw something out of my peripheral vision, and I'm like, what? I saw this black shadowy thing go from a bush to a tree, and I'm like, I just didn't see that. Continue to walk along, and I saw it again, and it seemed to be following us all the way to her uncle's house. And I didn't even know what to think about what it was that I was seeing. So we get to her uncle's house. A little time later, we go to walk back to her house, and the darn thing followed us all the way back. And by that time, when we reached her house, I was like just beside myself. And I'm like, look, I don't know what I'm seeing here, but I just saw the craziest thing following us. And I grabbed a piece of paper, and I drew what I call the head and shoulder shadow person, which is like this big, hulking, wide creature that looks like kind of like a man with its head directly connected to its shoulders. No neck to be seen, no legs. Pretty tall, maybe, anywhere from 8 to 10 feet tall. And I draw this thing, and I show it to my friend. I think, she's totally going to, laugh at me or something. And so I show it to her, and she just looks at it and goes, oh, that thing. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's been following me since I was a kid. Hey, Dad, look, Heidi saw the guy. And he goes, oh, is he back, huh? And I'm like, huh? What's going on here? I mean, just the craziest scenario for me. And a short time later, I needed to go up to the second floor to get something for my room. I did not turn the lights on because it was still daylight. And the first room that you go into, there are no windows, but my room had the low windows that had plenty of light coming in. So I could see just fine. I go in, I grab what I needed to, and I go to turn to get out of the room when this thing was standing there blocking my way out of the room. And the fear that hits a person when you see such a thing, that's just out of things that nightmares are made of. I was nearly paralyzed with fear, and this thing was literally hulking over me to the point of I felt like a strange thing to say, that you could feel this thing wanted to rip my throat out if it could. It hated me. It hated that I saw it, and I got the message loud and clear. And I don't know what came over me. I don't know how I knew to do what I did, but I knew if I ran, it was going to get me. I knew if I swung at this thing, it was going to get me. I mean, this thing was within touching distance. And I just kind of took a deep breath and kind of just, was saying a prayer to myself and just walked slowly through this thing and steadily pacing myself to get to the stairs. And I mean, that second room, pitch black, and it's huge. And I just knew, just keep your pace, Heidi. Just keep your pace. And I mean, I could feel this thing just breathing practically on my neck and just following me all the way. I got to the top of the stairs, and it was as if my legs were just jello. Like I just couldn't walk. And I kind of fumbled down and thudded at the bottom of the stairs. And my friend, heard me fumbling down the stairs and comes out. And it's like, whoa, what's going on here, Heidi? I'm like, and I could barely speak. And I'm like, it's upstairs, until I could get out. And I mean, this thing was upset. It was very upset. And I've now learned over the years that these shadow beings, they do not like to be seen. And they often will confront a person if you spot them out when they're not wanting to be spotted out. So this was a typical response of them.
What about the idea that it's a function of peripheral vision, or in some cases, sleep paralysis has been used to explain all kinds of things away, alien abductions and poltergeists and things of that sort. I'm sure at least some of those, some cases of what we would call paranormal, it can be explained that way. But you're talking about something else, right? For shadow people and for Hat Man.
Oh gosh, yeah. The naysayers that say sleep paralysis this and sleep paralysis that, I'm like, you'll have a chance to get your turn with these things, because I'm not saying that there's just a possibility you'll experience one of these things at some point. It's a threat that they will come at some point. So the naysayers will change their tune at some point. So I'm not really that concerned about what they say, but these things, they'll come in the daylight. They don't care. They prefer not to. They like to be hidden, because if you can see your enemy coming, you can protect yourself. But no, they come like a thief in the night, most often times, so they can have the upper hand. And it's such a low down, dirty trick of a thing. You know, it's like, look, if you're as big and bad as you're purporting to be, come to me as I am. You know, it's not something that they commonly do, unless they feel threatened. I think they're often able to read, you know, a person and what they might do with what it is that they've seen and seeing these creatures. So, but no, sleep paralysis, no way. Not not these things. Not with the glowing red eyes, leaning over, choking a person, slamming them up and down on the bed. No.
Since you've talked about this publicly, written about shadow people, I think because of your radio show and appearing on Coast, you've had so much input about shadow people, and we'll come back to that a little bit later as part of a litany of what you'd call paranormal experiences. But this also leads you to Hat Man. What's the first Hat Man sighting you had, and what did you think it was? Did you think it was a shadow person the first time you saw it? Same thing?
You know, oddly enough, George, I didn't experience seeing him personally until I started writing the book. Now,
that's
he's
creepy.
Been seen behind me. He's been seen around me. He's been seen by family and friends, coworkers, you name it. Everything and everybody. But that man did not come my way. My first encounter of a sort with him happened with my college roommate, Samantha, and she and I shared an apartment, and my goodness, this girl, we had so many odd things that went on in this apartment, it was just bizarre, and her way of dealing with most of it was screaming, and it was always in the middle of the night, always like to the point where I'm like, come on, just, deal with it, I'm dealing with it over here, type of thing. But this one night, I was certain someone broke in and was murdering her. She screamed like the death screams of the movies, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on? She screamed again, and I'm like, oh, as long and as loud as she possibly could. And by that time, I'm like bolting. I'm like, something's wrong. In her bedroom, there was a door that led out to like the patio. So I was like, somebody might have got in there. I don't know. So I run to her room. I bust open the door. I'm like, panting. I'm like, what? What's going on? And I mean, she is just pushed into the furthest corner that she possibly can be in, and crouched, and she's pointing, and she's going, the man. I'm like, what man? I'm running around. I'm like, oh my God, I'm making sure the door is locked. I'm like looking at the windows. I'm like, everything's secured. I'm like, well, where'd he go? And she's just like, no. When she finally could speak, she's like, he disappeared when you came in. I'm like, disappeared? I'm like, oh, that's bizarre, and she was a great artist, and she went on to draw what this man looked like, and she drew a three-piece suit, goatee on his, a very pointed chin. He wore a trench coat, and he also had a gold chain watch on his hip and a flat gaucho hat, kind of like Zorro's hat. And I believe he had the black solid eyes that she saw. And I was just like, but she was, he was in the shadows. And I'm like, shadows? I'm like, oh, must be another form these shadow people must take, is what I'm assuming. I hadn't encountered him. And, she kept telling me, he was so real, Heidi. He was so real. He was right here. And I'm like, but I hadn't experienced him. I really didn't know what to think of him. And, but upon, kind of gathering my first book, The Secret War, and finally placing the different images of shadow people on my website, I had called this Hat Man the Hat Man Shadow, just another form, because they could take on the form of what I call the head and shoulder shadow, a shadow cloud, shadow streak and whatnot. And I just assumed that's what he was. And almost immediately, though, when that image went up, the emails changed. The responses to his image alone was different. It was, I know this guy. You know, I've known him since I was a kid. He still visits me. I'm like, what? You know, it wasn't like I spotted this guy. It was, he talks to me. He knows me. You know, I'd get chills just thinking about it.
Your youngest sister, Keisha, very close to you,
yeah.
has an experience, and she draws a picture. I can only imagine the goosebumps you got when she shows you this picture. Tell us that story.
Oh, gosh. So I was so excited. You know, I just got my website up of the different images, you know, because I finally put the images up once I got the Secret War book published. I wrote the book in 97. I distributed it around to different authors and publishers and all over the place, and finally got it published in 01, though I think it got leaked a little bit here and there, but whatever. I was happy, and I'm like, you know, my sister comes over unexpected, Keisha does, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to show you my new website. You know, I'm so excited. It's just like, Heidi, I need to talk to you about something. I'm like, okay, yeah, but look. And she's like, yeah, but Heidi, something really weird happened to me. And I pull up my website. The Hatman shadow guy pops up on my website, and she just shrieks, that's him, you know, just pointing. I'm like, what? That's him? What are you talking about? She's like, that's the guy. That's what I saw. And I'm like, you know, slow down, you know. I'm like, I wasn't piecing together what she was talking about. I just put this book out, and she just had this happen to her. I mean, literally, probably days apart. I don't think that was a mistake. And what she told me was, she doesn't like talking about it, but I get tickled by, especially my siblings. We've been tortured for so long with haunted stuff. I find it hilarious. They get still scared a lot, but anyways. But she went to wash her laundry, and she went to get her clothes out of the dryer. And she told me, I went down the stairs, and I'm at the bottom step, and I didn't step all the way down. I look over to the dryer, which is pushed up against the wall, and she's like, Heidi, this man with a hat comes, you know, leaning over from behind the dryer, and she's like, he was huge. And I'm like, she said, Heidi, I don't believe I touched the stair on the way up. She said she passed her daughter up, ran out screaming. Her daughter didn't know what was going on, ran out following her screaming too. And I'm like, what? You know, what is going on? It's just so strange. And then she tells me, I think it was the next day or something, she was sitting in her car, and she looked in her rearview mirror, and he was in the back seat, glowing red eyes. That's another form he loves to show his red glowing eyes, which I don't understand. But I think it's to get some respect or fear. I don't know. But she said she just stopped the car, jumped out, and danced around like this just did not happen to me. And still, at that time, I was not getting what he was exactly. I knew he was different. I knew that he was making a point of going after certain people, and also letting people know that he was no shadow person. He wore the outfit that he did so you would recognize who he is, and you know, why do it? Why else? He could change into any form, apparently, but no, he wants people to know that he's showing up everywhere, worldwide. It doesn't matter your religion, your faith, where you're located. He can and he will show up, and it's a disturbing pattern.
I had an experience with one of these shadow things probably about 12 years ago.
What happened?
I was working third shift at the time, and it was my night off, so I went to the grocery store about 3 o'clock in the morning. When I came back, I was coming up my sidewalk, and I saw this shadow, like, running out of my neighbor's yard.
Ooh.
Tore right toward me.
Just the shadow, yeah.
Yeah, I thought at first it was just like a looming shadow from maybe a jogger on the street, because that's what it looked like. It was very athletic looking. It didn't have a hat on. It looked like a runner. I'd say it was probably 6.5 to 7 feet tall. And I'd recently been robbed, so I was kind of paranoid. I was packing a pistol around everywhere I went at the time. I had my concealed carry. And I thought somebody was running up on me and was going to, I don't know, brain me or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd have my keys to the house, the car, everything.
Wow.
So I pulled that pistol out, and I was just about to say, I'll shoot you, when I realized what it was. It was darker than the night, and it was just looked like a three-dimensional shadow.
How long did it hang around?
It was running straight at me. And so I didn't say anything after I saw what it was. And it was probably 10, 12 feet away. I was just about to pull the trigger anyway. And I don't know if it saw me, I surprised it or what, but it did it turned and did a half a circle around me and got back in line straight with me where its back was turned toward me. Now, the weird thing is, when it kind of got sideways with me, I couldn't see it. So, that made me think maybe it was two-dimensional, and it was so thin I couldn't see it when it was sideways. But as it got a little further, I picked it up again.
And how did it finally disappear, James?
They just ran across into the other neighbor's yard and disappeared into the night.
So tell me about that part, Heidi, the running part. That's unusual.
Yeah, to see distinctive legs is unusual. If that's what he saw, distinctive legs or not. I don't generally hear of that, but I've heard of it every once in a while. But when something looks really like a person, I tend to think more of a ghost, to be honest, because the shadow beings, they were never people. I call them shadow people, but that's not the case with what they really are. So can they take that form? I'm sure they could. And I've had people write me and say, look, I saw a shadow being, and, it kind of had that little twisty look to him, but it looked kind of human.
Interesting. All right, Heidi, we're going to come back and take final calls with you in a moment as we talk about the Hat Man and shadow people. Okay, welcome back to Coast. George Noory with you, our final segment with Heidi Hollis as we talk about shadow people, the Hat Man, and so much. I guess you would rather be confronted by a shadow person than a hat person, huh?
You could say that, that's for sure. You know what? I have to tell you, George, I already got some messages from Freemasons. I don't think they're all evil, okay? My dad was a Freemason.
Right.
So it's like, it's okay, everybody. But I think there's higher rankings that people are not aware of. And, they need to dig deep. See what's going on.
Sedalia, Missouri we go. David's with us. Hey, David, go ahead, sir.
Hey, George. Hi, Heidi. How are you all doing tonight?
Good, thank you.
Hey. So first of all, I just want to say I completely believe in Hat Man. My sister went to Ireland several years ago, and she was visiting a cathedral, and she swears up and down there was nobody else behind her. In one of her pictures, there is a shadow with a kind of like a top hat. And we're big into paranormal stuff, and she swears up and down it's Hat Man. So, and it's kind of creepy.
You got to send me that picture. That sounds cool.
Yeah, absolutely. If I can find it, I'll send it to you. I was just going to share a story. So when I was little, I was 3 or 4. My mom and dad were living in a little trailer house out in the country, and weird stuff would always happen. And I would always ask my dad. I'd point down a hallway and ask, "Who's that? Who's that?" My dad would turn around. There's nobody ever there. And eventually, I started getting really sick, and I was having these random seizures all the time. Doctors couldn't figure out what was happening. And I remember having these horrible, horrible nightmares from my bedroom. I'd wake up, and I just felt like something was in there with me. And I still remember this to this day. And it was just horrible. And one day, I'm laying in bed, and I'm looking between my headboard and my mattress. And I remember this, and it sounds ridiculous, but I remember there being 4 little people. I would almost say sprites, not fairies to a sense, but just little people. And I kept remember them telling me, we're going to protect you. Everything's okay. And they had these little instruments, like a flute, like a little lute. But I would always have these nightmares, but then these little people would show up, and they gave off like this really positive energy. Well, anyways, I was always freaked out of this room, so I begged my mom and dad to let me just sleep with them in their room. So my mom sets this cot up in their room one night, and I'm sleeping in this cot, and my mom wakes up, or my dad wakes up in the middle of the night, and he swears he sees me walking around the bed, and he goes, "David, go back to bed." And I'm still walking around. So my mom, this wakes my mom up, and she looks over, and I'm still in the cot, and they both see this figure just walking around the bed to my dad's side. So in the minute they turn this light on, the shadow just dissipated completely.
Oh, gosh. Oh,
and
gives me chills.
And I was still really sick at this time, and like right after that, we moved out of there. And the minute we moved out, I never had seizures again. I didn't have those illnesses.
Wow.
It was weird. So, but yeah, just kind of a crazy story I kind of wanted to share. So
super.
Oh,
Thanks,
I'm glad
Dave.
you did.
Thanks.
I have something in common with you. I had crazy seizures from the age of 2 until my parents built a brand new house and moved us out of there. And guess what? I saw little people as well.
Heidi, how many of us see shadow people out of the side of our eyes? We catch a glimpse of something that we knew or know rushed by, and I think it's a shadow person.
I think it is too, oftentimes, and a lot of people are like, "Well, why do I see it in my peripheral vision?" And we have these cones on the side of our vision that it's very primal. So we see things creeping up on us from our peripheral vision. It's more sensitive to the differences between lights and darks. So that's why we're able to spot things and not always see it head on, especially if it's just a fluctuation between the lights and the dark. So I think that I think a lot of us are keen to picking up on their presence, and because it's getting crowded out there, to be honest.
Sure is. Let's go to Thomas in La Jolla, California. Tom, go ahead.
Hi, George. Thank you for taking my call. Heidi, very fascinating information. And I wanted to ask you, Heidi, traditionally in the Middle Ages, in Europe and in England, the magical text called grimoires would describe demons. And it sounds quite a bit like Hatman. And my question is, are there identifying characteristics of demons? For example, traditionally, a demon standing in front of a mirror would have no reflection, or a demon out in bright sunlight would cast no shadow, or a demon might have a slight smell, a smell of sulfur, say, or a demon might have eyes that shapeshift. They look normal, but then you look again and they're like reptilian or, slit-shaped irises and pupils, etc. And I'm curious about that. And I guess the other question I have is, if Hatman, demons don't have the same limitations in time and space as human beings. So a demon can manifest simultaneously in several locations. So I'm curious, is there an underlying traditional demonic name to Hatman that we can summon it and bind it in an exorcism?
Oh, boy.
Does it have a name, Heidi?
I have, honestly, a lot of people have asked me, have you ever put yourself out there for an exorcism where the Hatman is involved? And I haven't gone to that extent just yet. But, oh, man, would that be interesting to see if he would cough up his actual name instead of toying with people the way that he does, giving them Old Scratch. He'd say his name is Scratch. He's called himself, what is it? I think somebody told me Stanley once. I'm like, come on now. And then the more recent instances have him been calling himself Hat Man. So he's not being honest and he's not being direct about exactly who he is. But I think it would be definitely interesting to be in that situation, to have the right team. Because, again, what makes me leery and weary is this entity really does not like me, and me putting myself out there in the midst of such a thing, I think it could end really badly for me unless I have the right protection around me. So, yeah, it could. I would definitely love that opportunity to, kind of have a face-to-face with this guy. And he is a demon, but he'll say he's the demon of all demons. And by what he says and does, and he is in more than one place at a time. Usually there's only one of him seen, and there could be a room full of shadow beings. And, he'll claim to be the top dog of them all. And from what people tell me, you're asking about their telltale signs of, to say this is a hat being or a hat man. I can't say he falls into a mythological creature, so to speak, like no reflection and whatnot. But the one distinctive thing, even if he kind of changes up his look, is when people close their eyes, he feels the same. His presence is the same. Even when these recruited people, it feels the same. It's like an extension of Hat Man.
At what point does Hat Man become more violent? People who have, especially women that have had a lot of encounters with him, and he becomes rapey. He will rape women. He's also been known to do it to men, but mostly women. So it's when he gets close enough and a constant presence. Almost like he baits these women. He tries to make them feel secure, and he's a protector. And then he slides into their bed, and he gets to be rapey. It's disturbing. Joe in Monterey, California. Go ahead, Joseph.
Thank you for taking my call, George.
Sure, Joe.
Hi, Heidi. I waited a couple of months, and you finally came back. And you're still here, of course.
Yes, yes, with my laugh and all.
This sounds like an extraterrestrial life form, computer-generated simulation, because it is growing and it's learning. Each encounter, it learns, just like a computer. This can be a very advanced form of computer life. It is demonic in nature. It's evil, and it does feed off our energy. At first, it used to be flat. They used to be flat, like a two-dimensional. But now it's learning three-dimension, and it's learning from us. It's learning from our technology.
It's evolving, isn't it?
Yes. And it's growing.
That is an interesting theory to call it a technology. They, because they work alongside of these so-called aliens that have very demonic qualities as well, it can make you wonder, is this some kind of technological advancement that they're utilizing to get into people's homes? But what is this ability to reach into somebody's chest and rip their soul out? What is that? And why is he threatening to take them to the pits of hell? Why does he smell like sulfur sometimes? Why is he raping? Why is he abusing? Why is he doing all of these horrible things that are such a definitive definition from the Bible to say what evil is, what a demon is? I mean, if he's not fitting the bill, I don't know what is.
You think he's the devil, don't you?
I sure am leaning towards that. I mean, I wish I had, no one has all the answers, but it's like I sure am leaning towards that he's not lying about that element. And his duty, what he's doing, and pulling people together to follow his cause, to do his job that he feels is his job, to reap souls. I mean, reaping souls. This is what he's telling them to do. What could
collecting them? He's collecting them.
Yeah,
terrible. Let's go to Chris, truck driving in Canada. Hey, Chris, go ahead.
Hi, George.
Hey, Chris.
I'm glad I got through. I had an experience with these shadow people. The only kind of paranormal thing that's ever really happened to me, so I'm glad I got through to talk to this lady. I had started with my ex-wife. She was an alcoholic, and I had been enabling her for a while, not knowingly, but so somebody said, you got to stop that, and the moment I did, she was going to get away with my son. They were going to go, get some time away down in Kentucky. But I had made that decision. I wasn't going to buy booze for her anymore. And the time that they were gone, during that period they were gone, I woke up for work, and there was this dark figure standing beside the bed, and I could not move. I struggled to move. I was terrified of it, and it just resonated hatred toward me, and it punched me and knocked me out. I swear to God.
Jeez.
So I went to work, got up, just forgot about it, went to work, chalked it up to some kind of illusion. But the following night, again, I wake up, my back's against the ceiling, my feet are dangling toward the floor, and my dog, Bubba, he's floating beside me, and there's things swirling in the house, and that dark figure has its arm toward us, pointing to us, with the same amount of hatred.
Wow.
And just crazy. So that was it. Things didn't work out with my wife and I, and her problem escalated, and we ended up getting divorced, and I got custody of my son. But so years later now, I'm in my one-bedroom apartment, and I wake up, I'm laying on the couch, and that dark figure is there.
Oh.
And
never left you alone, did it?
And Bubba jumped into it, and it disappeared. My dog jumped into it.
Was the dog okay?
Yeah. Actually, Bubba ended up dying. He went blind and got diabetes. I don't think it was a result of that, but he was getting up there. But it wasn't too long after that incident that he died.
Jeez, the clock's got us now. Heidi, thank you again. Always great talking to you.